Well, well, well. Here we go again. Another draft season, another round of rumors, narratives, and, let's be honest, some straight-up smear campaigns. And this time, the target seems to be Tetairoa McMillan. If you've been following the pre-draft buzz, you've probably seen some reports suggesting that McMillan might fall in the draft, maybe even right into the Cowboys' lap. But the real question is, why? What's behind these narratives? And should we, as Cowboys fans, even be paying attention to them? Before we break it all down, do me a favor. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way you won't miss any updates on the Cowboys, the draft, and everything in between. And if you're already subscribed, welcome back. Let's talk facts. Now, if you've been a football fan for a while, you already know how this works. Every year, certain prospects suddenly become controversial right before the draft. Maybe it's a character concern. Maybe it's a supposed lack of dedication. Or in McMillan's case, a quote taken out of context. And here's the thing. These narratives don't just appear out of thin air. They're often pushed by insiders, analysts, and even teams that might have their own agendas. Sometimes it's to get a player to drop. Sometimes it's just lazy reporting. Either way, it happens. And when it does, players who should be top picks start sliding down draft boards. Which brings us back to McMillan, a wide receiver with size, skill, and production, yet suddenly, some people are saying he's not worth a first-round pick. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a player's draft stock take a hit because of rumors or bad narratives? Drop a comment below and let me know. Because what's happening to McMillan, it's not new. And in the next chapter, we're going to break down exactly what's going on. All right, let's get into it. Because what's happening with Tetairoa McMillan right now, it's bigger than just a single quote. It's a classic case of a pre-draft smear campaign. If you don't know what that means, here's the simple version. A smear campaign happens when negative stories about a player start spreading, often exaggerated or taken out of context. The goal? To hurt their draft stock. And whether it's intentional or just lazy reporting, the result is the same. Teams start second-guessing, and players fall further than they should. And that's exactly what's happening to McMillan. Recently, an old video of him resurfaced where he said, "I don't watch football. I don't like watching film either." Sounds bad, right? If you hear that without context, it makes McMillan look unprepared, maybe even lazy. But here's what they don't tell you. That clip wasn't from this offseason. It wasn't even from last year. It was recorded 2 years ago, right after his freshman season, when he was still just 19. He wasn't a pro yet. He was a young player, still figuring things out. And guess what? A lot of young athletes don't obsess over film study in high school or early college. They rely on raw talent because, at that level, it works. But does that mean he won't put in the work in the NFL? Not at all. And yet, people are using this outdated clip to push the idea that McMillan isn't dedicated. And this isn't the first time a player has been hit with this kind of negative press before the draft. Just think about guys like Laramie Tunsil or Justin Fields. Both had pre-draft rumors, questioning their character or work ethic. And what happened? They proved everyone wrong. So what do you think? Are these types of reports deliberate attacks on certain players? Or are they just misunderstandings that get blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to hear what you think. And now the big question. If McMillan really does slide in the draft, could he end up with the Cowboys? Let's break that down next. Now here's where things get really interesting. If this so-called smear campaign actually causes Tetairoa McMillan to slide in the draft, could he end up in Dallas? Let's talk facts. Right now, the Cowboys are sitting with the 24th pick in the first round. And if we're being honest, wide receiver isn't their biggest need. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't take a serious look at a player like McMillan, especially if the value is there. The Cowboys' receiving core is in decent shape with CeeDee Lamb leading the way and Brandon Cooks providing veteran leadership. But beyond that, there are question marks. Michael Gallup hasn't been the same since his injury, and the depth behind him is far from solid. If the Cowboys want to give Dak Prescott another dynamic weapon, McMillan could be the guy. So, does he fit in Dallas? Absolutely. McMillan is a big-bodied receiver who thrives on contested catches. He's got great hands, solid route running, and the kind of upside that could make him a major threat in the Cowboys' offense. If he truly does fall to pick 24, the Cowboys might be getting an absolute steal. But of course, there are other options on the board. The Cowboys could go after an offensive lineman, a defensive piece, or even another wide receiver like Brian Thomas Jr. or Xavier Worthy. That's where you come in. If McMillan is available when the Cowboys are on the clock, would you draft him? Vote in the poll and tell me why in the comments. Do you think he's worth the risk? Or should the Cowboys look elsewhere? Because in the next chapter, we're going to break down McMillan's development and what kind of player he could become in the NFL. Could he prove the doubters wrong and turn into a star? Let's find out. All right, let's get something straight. Draft prospects are not finished products. Every player coming into the NFL has weaknesses, but what really matters is how they develop once they get to the league. And when it comes to Tetairoa McMillan, there's plenty of reason to believe he's just getting started. Let's talk about his growth over the past 2 seasons. After that infamous clip where he said he didn't watch film, what did he do? Did he fall off? Did his game stagnate? Not even close. He put up back-to-back seasons with over 2,300 receiving yards. That's not just consistency. That's dominance. And that tells us something important. Even if McMillan wasn't the biggest film junkie at 19, his natural talent alone made him one of the best receivers in college football. Now, imagine what happens when he gets into an NFL system, surrounded by veterans, and fully commits to perfecting his craft. That's when players go from good to great. We've seen it before. Remember when people doubted Justin Jefferson because they thought he was just a slot receiver? Or when there were concerns about Amon-Ra St. Brown's speed? Look at them now, both elite playmakers in the NFL. So, could McMillan follow that path? Absolutely. He's got the size, hands, and route running ability to be a legit weapon in the league. The only question is, which team will give him the opportunity to prove it? And that's why this smear campaign is such a big deal. If teams buy into the narrative that he's not dedicated, he could slide further than he should. But if the Cowboys see past the noise and believe in his potential, they might land one of the steals of the draft. What do you think? Which wide receiver in recent years surprised you the most in the NFL? Drop your answer in the comments. Now let's bring it all together. In our final chapter, we'll discuss what all this means for McMillan's draft stock and whether the Cowboys should take the risk. So after everything we've broken down, the smear campaign, McMillan's talent, his potential fit in Dallas, what does it all mean for the Cowboys when draft night arrives? The reality is, narratives like this can have a real impact on a player's draft stock. If teams believe the negative buzz, McMillan could slip further than expected. But that might actually be a golden opportunity for the Cowboys. Think about it. If Dallas can land a first-round caliber wide receiver at pick 24 just because of a misleading controversy, that's a huge win. They'd be adding a big-bodied playmaker to an offense that could use another difference maker. But at the same time, the Cowboys can't afford to ignore their other needs. Offensive line depth, defensive reinforcements. There are multiple directions they could go. And if McMillan is sitting there, Jerry Jones and the front office will have a big decision to make. So let's settle this right now. Should the Cowboys draft McMillan if he falls to them? Drop your take in the comments and let's get this debate going. Do you think he's worth the pick, or is the risk too high? One thing's for sure. This draft season is only going to get crazier. So if you want to stay on top of everything Dallas Cowboys, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. We'll be breaking down every rumor, every pick, and everything that matters to Cowboys Nation. That's it for today. Until next time, let's talk Cowboys, where we talk facts.